Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the third installment of my 5-part series in which I go through every single Big Ten team, all 18 of them, and predict every single game on their schedule. I have them all seeded 1 through 18, and we're just going right down through the pecking order. My first video covered my first 4 teams, my top 4 teams in the Big Ten. You all can already guess it, but Ohio State was in there. Oregon was in there, Penn State was in there, and if you want to go watch the video, go find out the 4th team. I bet you guys can already guess. The second video I made very recently covered teams 5 through 7. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you should just go ahead and watch that one as well. I'm going to put it in the description. You guys can just go to my channel's homepage and watch that for yourself so that you can get caught up on that. So go ahead and do that before you watch this video so that you have a little bit more context and that you have a little bit more clear understanding of what you will be about to see. All right. Now, if for those of you that are still here, let's dive right in. But first, if you haven't already, please subscribe as it is the best and most efficient way to support the channel. We're growing and we would love to have you guys in for the long haul through football season and beyond into next year. And I plan to have this channel go for as long as we can, as long as we keep growing here. So I ask you to please subscribe, comment, and like the video as well. Let's dive right in. All right, and we will be starting off the video talking about none other than Southern Cal, the USC Trojans. I have them going 8-4. They're my number 8 team in the Big Ten by the end of the year. And the way I structured this, I'm not going to talk about USC versus Utah State at length, right? So I have 3 swing games, and we will be touching on other games such as the LSU game, such as, whatever. So with these 3 swing games, we'll talk about those in depth, and I'll give you my thoughts on USC. We already did roster previews earlier in the summer, so go ahead and check those out. My USC one did pretty well. If you want to go see my thoughts on the USC roster, go ahead and check that one out. It's on the channel page. All right, let's dive right in. LSU, I think, is going to be a loss. I think it's just a very early game, and LSU's offense is going to be better than USC's offense and just neutral field. USC is still going to be trying to get their bearings, and I think LSU will outclass them in that game. Fear not, USC fans. You guys will go on and beat Utah State. Losing to Michigan at the Big House, I think that's understandable. I can see a reasonable realm where USC goes in and beats Michigan, but for that to happen, I would have needed to see something better in the LSU game and an outright win, most likely. I have them losing to LSU. Therefore, I have them losing to Michigan. Week 5, this is my first swing game here versus Wisconsin. My swing games are defined by a couple of different categories. Number 1, it's going to be about the most 50-50 games on your schedule. Number 2, it's relevancy on the schedule as a whole. So, coming off of a loss at Michigan, you're 1-2. It's a gotta have it win to stay in the relevancy category for Southern Cal. So I think you get a really big time W here versus Wisconsin, who we will be talking about in this video. And I think that game, I think Southern Cal will totally dominate on the offensive side of the ball versus Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin, couple question marks in the secondary. Again, I did a Wisconsin video, but I think USC can exploit that. Week 6, you get a nice victory at Minnesota. Really second road test in the Big Ten. Then Penn State comes to town. I just don't think this year you have enough firepower to beat Penn State yet. Maybe in the next coming years, I think you will be able to with some more quality depth and a better defense. Like, I think they will progress to be a pretty nice defense in 2 or 3 years. Just not this year, USC fans. Just stay patient. Your time's going to come where you beat Penn State at home, but I don't think it's this year. Then you beat Maryland. Then you beat Rutgers. Then you beat Washington. And you're going to your bye week ripping off 3 straight wins. And then you face Nebraska at home. We talked about this game last video. Surprise, Nebraska was in my 5 through 7 video. We talked about this game for a pretty reasonable length. And I think because Nebraska also has this game off of a bye, which makes this very interesting. Both teams coming off of a bye. I think USC wins this. It's a nail biter. It's by 3 points. It's a high scoring game. It's like a 34-31 game. And I think that game is going to be incredibly fun to watch. Two really good offenses, in my opinion, by the end of the year. But I think Southern Cal is going to have just enough to get by with a win there. You're going to beat UCLA, then you lose to Notre Dame. You lost to Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame, in my opinion, is a top 7 team. I could be wrong on that, but they look star-studded out there. They look awesome. So USC finishes with a record of 8-4. I think this is a very good first year if they go 8-4, especially where they are as a group. They're still trying to recover from that disastrous defensive really abomination from last year. I think they'll get better on defense. But really, to play good ball in the Big Ten, you have to have a solid defense at bare minimum that can be physical and that has great trench play. And I don't think that USC has that. So I don't think that USC is quite an elite this year. But in the coming years, I can totally see them being there. They're going to recruit like a Big Ten team. And I think they will still have that Lincoln Riley aura going forward. So that's my thoughts on USC. All right, so now we move to my number 9 team, the Wisconsin Badgers, with a record of 7-5. Now, I will preface this by saying if they had Rutgers' schedule, or if they had Nebraska's schedule, or if they had Iowa's schedule, I think that they would be talked about as a dark horse playoff contender, as a team that's going to win a crap ton of games. They're going to go 9-3 or 10-2 or possibly even 11-1 with the talent on Wisconsin's roster. But they don't have an easy schedule. Let's go through it. You beat those opponents in week 1 and week 2. We don't need to talk about them. Week 3 versus Alabama. I have this down for a loss. I can very much see a world in where Wisconsin beats Bama. I just don't think it's this one. Any reasonable fan will tell you I think Wisconsin has a fighting chance in this game, and this game will be closer than advertised by casuals. So I think that Wisconsin will give Alabama a very hard time, but I have a very hard time myself thinking that Wisconsin will be able to outright beat Bama, but I think that Wisconsin will be able to cover the spread, whatever the spread may be. Week 4, you get a much needed bye. We already talked about the USC game. USC, it's a must-have. It's a must-have game, and I think that Wisconsin will be a little bit outmatched by Lincoln Riley's offensive aura, like we said earlier. Week 6, you get a win versus Purdue. You get a sneaky good win when you travel to Piscataway to play Rutgers. You beat Northwestern. You lose to Penn State, and you beat Iowa in Kinnick Stadium. This is kind of an upset. I don't see a whole lot of people calling this game, but I think that Wisconsin has an aerial attack that will be able to really boost them on offense. They'll be able to run the ball. They'll be able to play good defense, but I think Wisconsin's passing attack will be able to beat Iowa. And I think Wisconsin's defense will be able to shut down Iowa's offense. And I think Wisconsin will score enough points to win this game. Then you get a bye. Then you lose to Oregon. And I think you lose to Nebraska. That will be a hard-fought game. But I think Nebraska, coming off of a loss versus USC, will be able to regroup and win their last home game. And we did talk about that game at length in the previous video. Then week 14, you get a win versus your rival, Minnesota, to finish 7-5. I think you'll get, with strength of schedule, a really nice bowl game with this. And I think that this is a year where a lot of outsiders, a lot of casuals, a lot of SEC fans would look at Wisconsin and, they probably watched only a half or 3/4 of Wisconsin all year. And they said, wow, I think that Luke Fickell took a step back. I think that he didn't really progress that much. Maybe he should be on the hot seat. Guys, let's be real. If Wisconsin went 7-5, that is a year 2 upgrade. And in year 3, with an easier schedule, Wisconsin will be a dangerous team. They're a dangerous team this year. Don't get me wrong. But I think with this schedule, a lot of people are going to look at a 7-5 record and be like, wow, ew, stinky. And I think that Wisconsin, if they went 7-5, even 6-6 with this schedule, that would still be a year 2 jump. All right, let's move on to our last team. And rounding out my top 10 is the Washington Huskies, newcomer to the Big Ten, made it to the national championship game last year. Everyone knows what happened to them. They got gutted. They don't look like a very deep team. They don't look like a physical enough team to be able to compete in the Big Ten. Well, I'm here to tell you, I think they will still make a bowl game here in this new Big Ten, partially because of a easy start to their schedule and a fast start to their schedule. You beat Weber State and Eastern Michigan in weeks 1 and 2. Then you beat Washington State, a little bit of a rivalry there, the Apple Cup there. In week 4, you beat Northwestern at home. I think that's a pretty critical win. That's why I have it as a swing game, because you look at the rest of this schedule, where else are they going to find a game where they're favored in or closer to 50-50 besides Indiana and UCLA, which we will get to, where they have that game at home as well. So I think that they do beat Northwestern. Northwestern will be a scrappy team. They'll be able to take some games. I could see Northwestern taking this game, but I don't think they will. And I think Washington comes out 4-0, maybe turning a couple heads. I think they'll lose at Rutgers. A little bit of a Big Ten welcome there from Rutgers. I think that Rutgers is going to be one of the most physical teams in the Big Ten, like I detailed in the last video as well. Sorry for all the plugs, guys, but you really got to have context when I'm talking, because I make so many references. Sorry about that. So I think Washington gets a reality check with how physical the Big Ten is when they play Rutgers, and even more so when they play Michigan and Iowa the next 2 weeks. And I think you drop both those games. A little bit of a regroup week in week 8. You get the bye. You come out with a great game plan. You go to Indiana. Indiana's not as physical as the rest of the Big Ten is. They're a little bit more offensive minded. They're going to put up a lot of points. Their defense kind of sucks, as we will detail in future videos. I think Washington goes out and gets a win here. Critical win, in my opinion. Washington loses at home to USC and at Penn State. You get your last win of the year versus UCLA. You get the bye week. Then you play Oregon, like we detailed in the first video of this series. Oregon's going to want to put 110 points on Washington, and they have the resources to do it versus an inferior Washington team. So I think that Washington finishes 6-6. They'll get a decent bowl game. They'll regroup, recruit like a Big Ten team, recruit the transfer portal like a Big Ten team, and I think Jedd Fisch in year 2 may make a solid leap. I think we'll at least maintain a bowl game. Look, in year 1, under Jedd Fisch, after your whole team was scrapped, look at TCU last year. Everyone said that was such a disappointing season, and after they made the national championship, and it was a pretty disappointing season. They went 5-7, but if Washington just can get to a bowl game, I think that is a win for the program, especially in year 1. All right, guys, that is it for me today. Keep on a lookout. I have the 2 remaining videos scheduled, ready to be put out. So this weekend, you're going to get 2 more videos out. They might be out already by the time you're watching, but just look out for those to see the rest of my Big Ten predictions. I'm planning on putting out some SEC predictions, some ACC predictions, and some Big 12 predictions. Not as detailed as these ones are, not team by team by these like these ones are, but I want to make sure that I cover everyone as well as the Big Ten. So thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you like the video to push this through the algorithm so that more people can watch it. Leave a comment. I love to comment with you guys down in the comment section. And as well, subscribe. Like I said in the beginning, have a great day, guys, and I will see you guys in the next one.